Please welcome Smera who's going to give a talk about how open source design works.
And I'm going to steal her design slide ideas. Beautiful.
It's okay. I also stole it from like a template website. When you start out as a designer, you want to create your own beautiful things, and then you think like, so if somebody already made this, why do I need to go out and create again? Which is basically what open source design is all about. I'm just opening my slide notes, and I have terrible stage fright, so I prepare everything that I want to say. So today I'll be talking about obviously open source design, and the goal of this talk is to introduce the concept of open source design, start a conversation about the necessity of design in open source, and how we can make open source projects a more welcoming environment for designers. So next slide please. So a small introduction. I'm Smera. I am currently work as a product designer at Eurocom. Eurocom is a Berlin-based open source company that makes solutions for the future of digital identity. So this is how I explain it to my parents. Think DigiLocker, basically that for like the German government. Now this part I don't tell my parents, but basically that on blockchain. Because then I have to tell them what blockchain means. That means I have to understand what blockchain means. Not an easy task for me. No, previous slide. So I'm a designer in open source. I got introduced to open source when I started working with Fedora as an outreach intern in May 2020, so 3 years ago I think. And then I am now an outreach mentor. I have my own mentee. It's a design project. So kind of like a full circle thing. So next slide. Obviously first we'll see what open source design is. Kind of easy to guess by the name, but just to have like a proper definition set up, is the development of technology and ideas without the retention of intellectual property, standard stuff. Now when it comes to software, it can be basically developing UI, UX, illustrations, visual design. And when it comes to hardware, it can be like the actual product design, the specs, the schematics. Like, Tesla is open source, like their whole design and everything is open source. I think in 2014 they made their technology open source. So that's an example of like open source design and hardware. Next slide. I really like this quote by Mitchell Kaber, and if I were to complete my talk in under 3 minutes, this is it. This is the talk. So what is design? It's where you stand with a foot in two worlds. The world of technology and the world of people and human purposes, and you try to bring the two together. And basically this answers the next question. Do we need design in open source? So over the years, the tech industry has realized the importance of design. And now we see a lot more designers working in close collaboration with developers to create usable technology. Right? So obviously open source also needs design. However, designers in open source are still a very rare sight. Actually, many open source projects receive little to no contribution from designers. So the result is powerful technology with subpar design, which obviously impacts adoptability. You will not use something that you can't, that you don't enjoy using. So why designers are not able to contribute? The first thing is awareness and discovery. So open source is not talked about in design schools. Engineering schools, yes, right? But even then, open source design not even in engineering schools. I am an engineer, and my major was computer science and design. Even then, no one in my college knew about open source design. So there is a problem with awareness and then discovery also. Like, let's say you know about open source design, you want to contribute, you don't know where to start, right? There's not a lot of literature or content out there guiding people, okay, you can go to these projects, or this is how you start contributing to open source design. And the next, which I personally face a lot, is the technical complexity. So, yeah, most designers, now go back. Most designers don't know about like technical terms like Git, PR, triaging, and case in point.
Most developer doesn't.
So I've been contributing to open source for 3 years now. This is a text I sent to Vipul 2 months ago. right? And the context behind it, I wanted to learn how to push badges, right? Jump that bridge of basically being a code or like a technical contributor. Justin Flory actually helped out with that. He taught me how to push badges. He even made a video of the whole process. So a year later, I'm trying to follow along the video, and so the first step is how to commit. Like the first step is committing to the repository. And instead of doing it, he just tells me, okay, first you commit to the repository and then you do this. I am watching the video, I'm like, wait, what is a commit? What is a repository? How do you commit to the repository? I have no idea. I sent this text at 2 AM, like, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I feared that I would end up breaking something. Like one commit and the whole batch system would go down. This is what I feared. And then obviously, I told people, next time someone is pushing a batch, just screen record, I'll try to follow it. Right? And never ended up happening. Like I didn't learn how to push a batch. Next slide, yeah. So how do we bridge this? How can we get more designers in open source? So I made a couple of points that I personally think would help bringing more designers into open source projects. Obviously, increasing awareness. I think Fedora does that quite well. So I started as an outreach intern. Now outreach is also a coding internship like GSOC, but they do have non-technical projects. I think when I applied, there were 2 or 3 design projects out of 30, so not a huge percentage. But since then, Fedora has like actively participated, and it's actually like one of the, you could say, flagship projects that you could get if you want to like be a designer in open source, right? And then after that, I see like in the recent years, you can see more non-technical projects, not just design. You have like research work and thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay. I had one more thing that I forgot to include. When you're doing documentation, don't hate me, okay? Try to include support for Windows as well. Okay? Hear me out, hear me out. A lot of designers use Windows or even Mac. Okay? Like usually the traditional design software that you use don't have open source support. Like you can't use it on Linux and stuff. So Windows is the way to go. ठीक है, we'll start them out there. हम उनको ऐसे करेंगे कि ठीक है, ये रहा Windows support. Slowly onboard them into open source design, and then when they're in, हम उनको अच्छे से cult में बुला लेंगे कि why don't you switch to Linux? Why don't you start using Penpot? Right? Why don't you use Inkscape? धीरे-धीरे करके we'll convert them into like full-time open source people.
And you can contribute upstream. You can contribute to Inkscape and in the end end up helping Fedora project without using Fedora, right?
Yeah. This is also like another vicious cycle, right? Like what?
Vicious.
Vicious, yeah, it is, because you see, okay, so let's say